One. Hello there, and welcome to episode 85 of the video game podcast, Between the Joysticks. I'm your host, Nick, and I'm joined by the Matt Booty to my Phil Spencer, John.
Booty.
John, this is episode 85, take two, unfortunately.
Yeah, we have some splaining to do, I do think.
We due to scheduling, we had to record on Thursday evening, and then the podcast just messed up.
Took a proverbial shit.
Yeah, and normally whatever, it is what it is, but it did suck that it was on an episode in which we are going to discuss the Elden Ring trailer, the Xbox business update. Some very important things in the industry happened during that week, and unfortunately your rant, our words, they're gone.
Well, I think if there's anything to be said about you and I as video game buddies, Nick, is that we can never plan on being around each other, talking to each other when actually important, cool things happen, right? Whether it's a Wolverine release date, Hades 2 announcement, this type of stuff, it just, they're against us. But we will fight through. We will persevere. We will figure it out.
Yes, but the cool thing about this episode is it's in video form. So if you go to youtube.com/@betweenthejoysticks, you can see us.
You caught yourself.
Yeah, you can see us. I'm still adjusting to the new name. So, and we can do stuff, like this. So we're sorry, but we're gonna talk about all those things this week. So
yep, rest assured.
Yeah, you're going to get our thoughts. You're going to get our expert or worst opinions, whatever you think, because we did have some predictions that aren't so correct in regarding.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Nobody bats 1,000.
No. And I'm just going to throw it out there too. As listeners of the show know, we are kind of a grassroots effort here. So being that we're doing video podcast for the first time, if you have any thoughts, opinions, what looks good, what doesn't work, Nick and I are kind of feeling this out ourselves, right? So
yeah.
If you guys have any insight, opinions, or ways so that we can improve this fucking ragtag duo, let us know, because we would appreciate it.
Sure. So all right. So let's just move into some light things before we get into the meat of the show. John, you have some news that you announced on our episode that we lost, but you can announce it on this very episode.
Oh, I'm my new child?
Yeah, you have a child.
I'm the proud new father of a PlayStation Portal. Yes, it has happened. They couldn't keep it out of my hands for too long, but I came into work. I don't know what day that was. It was like Tuesday or something.
Yeah.
And before I could even put my bag down or sit down, Nick said, "Hey, it's in the cart. You're buying the Portal." And so I didn't have an option. My wife was mad at me. So you got to apologize to her, but it's okay because the thing is dope.
Well, shout out to nemesis of the show, Jake, who let us know that it was available in the PlayStation Direct store.
I try not to give him too much credit.
Sure. And so
he knows why.
We pressure John. John has to do things for himself. He's always complaining that his TV is taken up by his family, so that's why he's playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom. Well, now the PlayStation is an option now.
Yep. No, I've already started to kind of look through my backlog, try and find some games that might make sense for a Portal experience because it's not great for everything. We had a little bit of Helldivers too, which we'll talk about later in the show. Played it on the Portal because my wife Uno reversed me and was like, "Hey, well, you have the Portal. I'm going to watch the TV." And that was kind of annoying. But, real big strain on the eyes. But the device is working great. I got my PlayStation finally hardwired. It only took 4 years to do that. And the thing's running great so far. So one more piece of Sony hardware that I am now the proud owner of. I think the only thing I'm missing ever is the PSVR 2. So
and the headsets and the Elite controller.
Sure. I guess that is technically hardware, right? But I'm talking about things I can play a game on.
Yeah.
But in terms of PSVR 2, it's not written in the show, but just got a shout out that Sony looks to be putting that thing on PC this year, which will be a huge boon for it. So maybe I'll have one of those soon too. I don't know. If they figure out a way to let me play Half-Life Alyx, I'm playing it. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting if it works with other non-native PlayStation games.
Yeah, and I don't know how the specifics of the PC ecosystem work with that, because I know it was exclusive to the Index, right? The Valve Index specifically. Yeah. But I think there was a way you could get around that with an Oculus. I don't know. This isn't, we play games, not so much PC.
Right. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on is we're just a couple days away from one of the most anticipated games, at least my most anticipated game. It was in my top 3, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And not a shocker, it's reviewing very well. Reviews are out. It is sitting at a 93 on OpenCritic. One of the best reviewed games of the year. Definitely the best AAA reviewed game of the year.
It's early, but yes, absolutely.
But congratulations, to Square Enix. And again, we just had Final Fantasy 16, 7-8 months ago, and here we are again. They're just another banger RPG.
That is something that I really haven't heard anybody talk about that. And granted, there are different teams working on the properties, but yeah, the fact that Square Enix was able to release the next mainline Final Fantasy as well as the highly regarded sequel to 7 Remake within a calendar year is very impressive, and something you don't see a lot in the industry nowadays. So to have it release, have it be in good shape, have it be everything fans wanted it to be. I think they've already they've bypassed the fear from fans of are they going to do the story justice with the remake? They assuaged any fears when that came out, but still, just to see them continue it at the high level that they are is very encouraging. And while I don't have a connection to those characters as much as a lot of people do, being that I didn't play it originally, it's still just from a gameplay and the way it looks standpoint. Yeah, that game looks to be incredible. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah,
we'll get some impressions from you at least next week. I know.
Yep, for sure. I already pre-ordered. It. I went to a GameStop just to do that, and I don't know why I took offense to this. There were like 3 teenagers working there. I was a Saturday afternoon, and I just walked in, and they're like, "Do you have any questions?" And I'm like, "Do you know who you're talking to?" I have a video game podcast.
Do you even know what a PlayStation 1 is?
I don't. It is the most innocent question, right? What else are they supposed to ask me?
They're literally just doing Job 101.
But I don't know about you, but when I go into stores, not just shopping for games, it's I'm there for a thing. I'm beelining it to the thing I want. So, I was like, no, I just want to pre-order a video game. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they got that process rolling.
Well, speaking of GameStop stories, I actually didn't tell you this one, Nick. I too went into a GameStop this weekend.
Okay.
I did not accomplish what I was hoping to accomplish, though.
Oh, what were you trying to do?
Well, I got my son an OLED Switch for Christmas 2 years ago, and so mine has been just sitting around collecting dust. I know that they're going to have the 2 coming out next year, hopefully. And so I thought, now's the time, let me just get rid of this thing. I saw GameStop was having $115 for one. Pretty good, right? Yeah. I can trade it in, get Final Fantasy VII, maybe even pick up Super Mario Wonder. But come to find out that GameStop will only accept your Switches. There's a barcode on the bottom of it that, as you insert it into a dock over 6 years, might rub off, right? Which happens. And so he's like, I can't scan it. And I go, cool. Go into system settings. There's the serial number. You can find out what it is. No. GameStop doesn't like that. They won't take it. Sorry, I can't accept this. It's like, are you kidding me? It's a perfectly and I went home because I was like, that can't be true. You have to be able to find the serial number, because he was straight up saying you can't do it. It's like, no, you can't go in and find the serial number that way. I'm like, okay, and I'm a pushover. I'm not gonna he's right. It's like, okay, buddy, and go home. There's a serial number. Found out all the information you need. So I'll be taking it somewhere else.
That's what I was gonna say. Is you probably just got the one try hard GameStop employee.
Yeah, I think so.
Go to another one. They're just like, whatever.
Yeah, it was just annoying though, because I was like, I don't know. I think anytime we as gamers go to a store for a gaming thing, you're kind of just, you're ready to go. You're excited, even if it is just pre-ordering something, and just having to walk out with the bag again that I walked in with.
And you're always going in and you're among your people, right?
Exactly,
you're other people, enthusiasts about video games. So you think you're always going to go in there and have a good time. But
you wouldn't take it.
But even in my GameStop story, the guy asked me what platform I wanted Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on, and I wanted to be like,
what?
There's only one. It is not on any other platform.
Must I train you?
Yeah, there were 3 of them in there. I'm like, which one's running this show? This guy's messing up.
What percentage? And it's got to be really low, but it has to exist. of GameStop employees don't give a fuck about video games. Like, it trust me, I'm sure it's like 1 or 2%. But, like, it's got to be always funny for, I would imagine, an employee like that. Be like, I'm just here to get a paycheck. I don't care about games.
Yeah, I mean, if I was like a retired man and I was just like, I just want to work for fun to get out, like GameStop would be up there. Granted, it won't exist by the time I retire, but
no, nobody's owning video games in that future.
But that would be kind of a cool job to just be like, oh, people come in and I just talk video games all day.
Yep,
because that's what I'm doing all day when I'm retired.
Yeah, I think that's a retirement job 101. You get the handyman dudes who just want to work at Home Depot. You get the naturey people that want to go volunteer at a nature center.
Yeah,
and then you get video game people that just want to be around nerdy boys.
Exactly. So. All right, that's all I got. If you got nothing else, we can move on to the show.
No, Nick.
All right, let's go.
Get
so this
ready.
is how the show works. John and I both bring up the 3 things to talk about. It can be a game we're playing. Right now, it's going to be Unicorn Overlord demo and Helldivers 2.
Yeah, we did it.
John and I are spreading democracy, so we're going to talk about that a little later. It can be a topic. We're going to talk about live service games today. It can be a news item. We got an Elden Ring trailer last week. We got that Xbox business update. We got to talk about that stuff. It can be an email from you at betweenthejoysticks@gmail.com or a Twitter DM at joystickspod or a comment on our YouTube page at Between the Joysticks. Any of those things, we can bring it and we can talk about it. So let's go.
We'll get ready to die and die again, because From Software just finally unveiled the launch date trailer for Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, the much anticipated DLC from Elden Ring Game of the Year 2022, my personal Game of the Year last year as well.
It's not Elden Ring 2.
It is not Elden Ring 2. I mean, that is something we talked about on the podcast, thinking, it's been over 2 years now. Is this just going to do what they did with Tears of the Kingdom and make it a full-blown sequel? But that doesn't mean, although it's not, doesn't mean that this thing isn't going to be beefy, isn't going to be awesome. So
expensive.
And expensive. Shut up, Nick. You From Software denier. But got a lot of this information from Polygon.com, so just going to kind of go over some of the press release information about the game, and we can move on from there. But starting on June 21st, 2024 for $40. That's right, $40. A little pricey, as Nick said, but you will be able to download Shadow of the Erdtree from Elden Ring. The events of Shadow of the Erdtree take place in a new space known as the Land of Shadow. According to game director Hidetaka Miyazaki, the new land is an entirely separate, physically separate map that technically occupies the same space as the Land Between. In other words, expect an alternate reality version of the world similar to Dark Souls' Artorias of the Abyss or Bloodborne's The Old Hunters DLC. Miyazaki also told Eurogamer that the Land of Shadow is From Software's largest expansion to date in terms of overall volume. In true From Software fashion, Miyazaki says that the Elden Ring players can access Shadow of the Erdtree's Land of Shadows by visiting Miquella's Cocoon. In Elden Ring, the cocoon is only accessible after defeating Mohg, Lord of the Blood, in Mogwin's Palace. So if you've played any other DLCs in the past, you have to go to a certain point. So you'll have to probably be a certain point into the game, right? Go to a specific location, do a specific thing. Honestly, I kind of hate that they do that, but that's how it is. That's how they've always done it. So kind of expect the same thing. In addition to a new land, Miyazaki says it will be filled with large-scale legacy dungeons as well as small to medium-scale dungeons. Players can expect new boss battles, new enemy types, new weapons, new armors, and other equipment. It will, of course, also feature new story elements and NPCs. One of the biggest being Mesmer the Impaler, who seems to kind of function as the Millennia-type boss of this game.
The red-haired person?
Yeah, it's the one who you can definitely tell is being positioned as the next big challenge because, again, fans of the From Software formula will know that bosses are almost always harder in the DLC too, which is going to be a crazy thing for this game. But that's kind of about it for the game itself. The trailer itself showed some cool new ways to do combat, some Bruce Lee looking martial arts stuff, which I don't know if that's a brand new way to fight or if it's a Ash of War, which is kind of like a special ability that you can use every once in a while. Don't know what that is, but Nick, are you going to jump into Shadow of the Erdtree now that
No. Okay. But what is your excitement level at? Again, Elden Ring, huge game of the year 2022. This is probably far after Phantom Liberty, the most anticipated DLC out there.
Yeah.
It is coming with that $40 price tag. Like, are you in day one?
Oh yeah, I'm in day one. Yeah. I mean, what this podcast has kind of caused me, had me do is evaluate who I am as a gamer and what I like and what I don't like. And what this one is teaching me is that announcements for projects or further information for projects I'm already aware of doesn't do a lot for my hype meter.
Okay.
It's always warranted. I'm always happy to see it. But in terms of like that, oh my God, like stand up, take my shirt off, run around the room naked. It almost has to be always something that I don't know of, right? Hades 2 is a perfect example. If they announced Nier Automata, the Nier 3, whatever you want to do with that, that would get me to go crazy. But being that I knew that this was going to come out, being that I figured it was going to come out this year, if it wasn't, then it would for sure be Elden Ring 2. It was more just, it was like seeing a friend come home for from break. Like, oh, hey, buddy, you want to hang out? Yeah, fuck yeah, I want to hang out. Like, and I'll see you, and I'll be there day one. But yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man. I fully expect this thing to be just jam packed with awesomeness. Curious if they're gonna do, are they gonna try and mess the formula up a bit? Are they gonna introduce some new way to traverse? Right, you had Torrent in the first game with the horse, but maybe could there be some flying mechanic or just some sort of way to elevate it to the next step? Elden Ring obviously is an evolution of the Dark Souls formula to the open world nature, so. Do they try to do that, or do they just treat it like, okay, this is Elden Ring, we're going to give players more of the same, they're going to love it because it is what it is.
Probably a new ending.
Yeah, probably, a new ending. Probably similar to what Phantom Liberty did. It didn't shake the ground with the formula, but it introduced, I'm sure, a lot of new mechanics and things that people got excited about. And yeah, apparently there's going to be a Death Blight swamp too. So hooray, Miyazaki loves his poison swampy areas. But pretty exciting stuff, and that'll be something to check out in the summer. It's gonna be unfortunate. It's like the most beautiful time of the year. Like, I'm not gonna want to be inside as much as I would right now, but that's okay. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's got to be something else. I mean, 2.5 years for it to come out is no joke.
Yeah, players of the game know there's an area in the beginning called Limgrave. They said it's about as big as that, which it's like that takes the first 40 hours of the game probably if you're exploring, if you're doing a lot of stuff. So.
Yeah,
gonna be good.
Yeah, it'll be here before you know it. I mean, just 4 months, you can do it. Yes.
Well, now we're gonna transition from something super bubbly and awesome to a little bit more industry analyzing, a little more. We actually have to have some serious conversations about it. But as we mentioned at the top of the podcast last week, after crazy rumors circulating in the Xbox world as to what is the future of the platform going to be, they're seeing articles, is Starfield coming to PlayStation? Is Indiana Jones coming to PlayStation? Is Elder Scrolls coming? All these things, right? The floodgates were open with rumors. So that forced Phil Spencer and the Xbox team to have to say something. What they decided to do was to go on the official Xbox podcast and have a nice 25-minute video kind of going over what their plans are, what the future looks like. Is it as doom and gloom as everybody says, or is it not that big of a deal? And I think it's kind of somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
So I got some notes, and we'll go over the what first. But I think between last week, Nick, us losing the podcast, and me ranting, I've calmed down a little bit. So I'm not gonna rant entirely here, but I definitely want to go over what was said.
Got no rant?
Well, I don't know.
We'll see. I'll try my best.
Yeah, and I don't know. Every time I rant about things, especially Phil Spencer, I always feel like, was I too harsh? Like, is a lot of that fair, or am I just getting caught up in the heat of the moment? So we'll let the audience judge.
Okay.
But
all right.
To go over what the meat of the story was, what is actually happening, like I said, Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, president of Xbox, Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios, sat down with, I know you'll remember her name.
Tina Amanini,
former editor-in-chief of IGN.
Yes.
So obviously somebody who knows the industry pretty well.
But works for Microsoft now. That's clear.
Yes, and she now is part of that team. They basically came out and said that they are bringing 4 titles for right now, 4 titles to competitor platforms, namely the Switch and PlayStation. And at the time of recording, they did not announce what the games were, but we now know that they are Pentiment, which is already currently available on PlayStation.
And Switch.
Hi-Fi Rush, which is coming later in March.
Yep, March 18th. PS5 only.
Look at
PlayStation only.
PlayStation only. Grounded and Sea of Thieves, 2 more live servicey games. Those are the 4 games that are going to be coming at first. They have said explicitly that these 4 titles were chosen for a reason, that this does not mean that future games will be coming. This does not mean that the dam is broken. But I think if you're kind of an analyst of the industry, you kind of see that, this is the start of something. But they said that Indiana, they did specifically say in this podcast that Indiana Jones and Starfield were not any of the 4. Again, this is kind of weird talking about in advance, like 2 weeks ago, because
right.
we do know a lot of the information now. But we do know that Indiana and Starfield are not planned for it now. But these 4, they are all over a year old. There are a couple of games that are community-driven, and then a couple others that have reached their full potential. Community-driven games being Grounded and Sea of Thieves. Reach full potential games being Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush, smaller things that they think they can extract some value in on the other platforms. And it has the potential to grow the brand value of Xbox. And they said that they're going to learn. They're going to learn and see what they get from this. I guarantee if they see high sales results from the PlayStation community, they'll probably explore putting more of these on. But off the bat, Nick, what do you think about this? Do you have any hype level for these games coming? What is your surface level thoughts on the 20 minutes we got from Phil?
So in our last podcast, you made the point to say, I hope they don't tiptoe around this. I hope they don't leave it up to question what games are coming and what games are not. And unfortunately, we're at that exact point still.
Yep.
While we do know the 4 games currently, which will by the end of April will all have been out on PlayStation, and that leaves a big window for a lot of other games to join. And even though Phil Spencer ruled out Starfield and Indiana Jones, they kind of did a full court press here. Not only did this Xbox podcast come out, but they also did Xbox Newswire on Twitter, and then they had prominent people in the journalism community, Tom Warren and Stephen Totillo, do interviews with Phil Spencer that went live that day. And even in that, where he asked him about Starfield and Indiana Jones, he said, will those games ever come to PS5? Can you rule that out? And Phil Spencer's response was, I don't think we should, as an industry, rule out a game going to any other platform. We're focused on these 4 games and learning from the experience. Again, that ambiguity is now going to plague every Xbox title. And that's why when I see sites like a lot of sites, saying, this would end up not being a big deal, I'm like, it's a big deal. Like, this is just the start. Yeah. If you don't think other games are going to come, I think you're crazy. We talked about this internal strife within Microsoft to get their games on more platforms. But that being said, I'm a PlayStation owner, and people heard me last year when Hi-Fi Rush came out. I was like, that's FOMO. That's the first time I've had FOMO for an Xbox game. So of course I'm glad Hi-Fi Rush is coming. And I checked out reviews for Pentiment, not my jam. Yeah. And Grounded just doesn't look like my thing either.
I want to love Pentiment. IGN gave it a 10. I tried it on Game Pass, but it is extremely slow and all reading. Which is I don't hate reading, but it's
he can't read.
It's tough.
It's an adventure game, so your mileage may vary, but Sea of Thieves just looks interesting from just if, as we talk about Helldivers later, if you could get a group of friends to play Sea of Thieves with you, the proposition looks much more highly anticipated on that game. But out of the 4, it's really just Hi-Fi Rush at this point. So
and Hi-Fi Rush is great. I've talked about it on the show. It's Ooze's style. It's unique. It's fun characters. Highly recommend everybody check that game out when it comes. And what we know about that now is it's only $30 US. So it's pretty cheap. And if you pre-order it through PlayStation, you get an extra 10% off. So for $28, that game is well worth it. So highly encourage anybody who is interested in that to check it out. But so as for the why,
but I do want to say a theme we're going to get through when we talk about all the kind of pillars of what they're talking about in this multi-tiered thing that this podcast had is there's a lot of contradiction, I think, and they'll say one thing, but then and kind of say things that kind of go, well, you just said no Starfield or Indiana Jones, and then in this interview you're saying they are still being considered. So it's just right now not no, but not ruling out no in the future. So the messaging is not going to be clear. And again, think about that when John goes over these other items. That I think this is a theme that's going to continue to come up.
Yes. That's always been my biggest issue with Xbox is just their communication has always been very, very poor, and this was no exception. Phil Spencer, I believe, is the king of talking out of the both sides of his mouth, and I don't mean that as like a personal thing. It's just like that's just how Xbox communicates, and it's fucking frustrating as somebody who tries to follow this industry. But like
corporate speak is like that a lot.
Right. So going back to the conversation at hand, kind of talking about the why. Why is Xbox doing this? Well, I think anybody who hasn't been living under a rock knows that PlayStation is dominating. They've been dominating for a while. And so what can they do with this initiative to get them to course correct a little bit? And so they said a lot of things in this, but paramount among them, I think, was their discussion on focusing on bringing great games to Xbox, PC, and cloud, which makes them accessible to hundreds of millions of players. Well, Nick, what type of device has hundreds of millions of players?
Your phone.
My phone, right? And so you can tell right off the bat that they're definitely still continuing down the path of quantity over quality. They're saying things like we see players play on different devices across different areas, tablets, phones. A video that they were showing alongside the podcast showed just the same thing. People playing on their tablets, playing on their phones next to each other. And while I'm sure that is a viable thing that's happening, it makes me extremely nervous. Especially if I were only an Xbox fan, where it seems like they are kind of continuing down that path where it's like they didn't mention games like Hellblade or Fable or Perfect Dark. They mentioned, and I noted this, right? When I was watching this, I took specific note of this to see if they mentioned anything else. They mentioned 5 games: Roblox, Fortnite, Call of Duty, Warcraft, I think, and Minecraft. Live service games that are giant juggernauts that, yeah, you can extract a lot of value from them, but they kind of just adhere to this low, race to the bottom type mentality that I just don't vibe with in the video game industry. And I'm not saying that that's going to be entirely their strategy, but you can see that is definitely a huge part of this.
And the frustrating thing is those are like the most unique games of all time, the most wildly successful. Every studio on the planet would love to have one of those games, but it's near impossible to do.
Yeah. Dude, even Sony, we're looking at Helldivers right now, the success that game is having. Sony playtested that game. They knew what that game was, and they had no idea that, oh shit, this is going to catch on with everybody to the point where they had to bump the servers up 5 or 6 times, and that's a great problem to have, but you can't seek it out. You can't just determine, this is the one. Look at Suicide Squad.
Right.
I'm sure WB was like, well, that's the one.
Yeah. It's like throwing darts at a wall and hoping you get the bullseye, but
you'll get some of them, but to make your strategy kind of go down that path, I think is just a dangerous thing.
And does and again, like the theme, the contradiction, has Xbox at this point yet ever in the last 10 years had a game even close to that?
No.
They can't even release a game that can be nominated for Game of the Year.
Sea of Thieves is probably as close as you can get, and that's not a Game of the Year kind of game. It is a big success.
But I'm just saying, even the lower hanging fruit of like a AAA video game that gets all these accolades, and Hi-Fi Rush was definitely one of those games last year. It was it didn't get Game of the Year noms, but they're not competing with the Sonys, the Nintendos. They're not Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, Spider-Man 2. Final Fantasy 16, all these other publishers are doing these things, and they're not. And yet they're looking for the next big game that is going to encompass all their initiatives: cloud, mobile, Xbox, PC. But they haven't proven yet that they can even release a very, very, very good game yet.
You got to make that $70 billion back somehow, Nick. I don't know how you do it.
Good luck.
Yeah, and. Yeah. So yes, I agree with everything you're saying. And there's these 2 quotes I want to focus on that kind of tie into this a little bit, where I think it really shows Xbox is starting to bow out of that space. I don't think, with rare exception, maybe Fable is this kind of game. I don't know, but I don't think they're going to compete in the Game of the Year category anymore, or at least like focused on that. Like if it happens, it happens. But there's 2 quotes I want to focus on that kind of lead me down that path. One is It's not about one device. It's not about the games in service of a device, but rather the devices that people want to play on should be in service of making the games as big and popular as they possibly could be, because really a healthy creator community is good for all games. That's one quote. Second quote is, there are two paths to increasing or to have the industry grow. Do I have a fixed number of players, and do I find new ways to monetize those players or to get more money from those the players that I have? Or do I expand the business I have by finding new players and adding those to the base of players that already play? And I just hate those two quotes in tandem, Nick, right? And going back to, or let's focus on the growing the industry part first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's saying we can't grow the industry by focusing on the people that already exist here, right? I think it's kind of a wide-known thing that the console space is almost maxed out. It's kind of been this way for a while. They say there's about 200 million or so console players, right? So where does that growth have to come from? Well, it has to come from outside that space. You got PC and you got mobile. I understand that. But first off, I don't think people are playing on devices all over the place. I just don't see it. I am friends with hundreds of gamers. Not a single person I know does that. And I know there's a lower...
I think people who play those bigger games that he mentioned are doing that. The Honkai Star Rails, the Genshin Impacts, Roblox, Fortnite. I think those people are probably playing because they can. Like when they're not at home, that device is available to just grind out or play a match here or there. But are people playing Starfield or any other
Indiana Jones, Fable, any of those kind of games, Forza?
No, I don't think so. Not to the percentage cannot be very high.
So I think if you have those two things, right, you have the mobile space is going to keep winning out, and I think we've seen that from Microsoft in the past 10 years, just based on the quality of the games.
Coming from both sides like that.
Between the joysticks, baby. We're between the joysticks. But I also take umbrage with his statement about the, do I have two paths? Like, we need to grow the industry. If you look at the Nintendo side of things, the PlayStation side of things, it's growing. It's not growing 40% every year, but the PlayStation 5 is outpacing the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 outpaced the PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 3 didn't because the PS2 is an anomaly with a DVD player. It's growing slower than maybe you want because they're nurturing their ecosystems. They're figuring out a way to keep people here by good games, and that drives the momentum forward. We are getting older. I don't plan on not playing video games in the next 10 years. I'm sure you don't either. I have a child who is growing up with this. There is a way to do this and create a healthy ecosystem, but it is not a race to the bottom because we see what happened with cell phones. And that was a race to the bottom. When games came out on cell phones, they cost money. Nobody remembers that because nobody wanted to pay for it because it was still like, I don't want to play on this. I get it. But it raced to the bottom to the point where shit was free, and then we get loot boxes, then we get microtransactions, then we get all this horse shit that takes away from the actual experiences we have. And if Microsoft's going to stay in the space, which they are, and I'm happy they are because competition is always a good thing, it just makes me worry that, again, they just spent $70 billion. The CEO of the company has their eye on them. The shareholders have the eye on that division. They have to make that money back. They have to figure out a way to do it. And the simplest, easiest way, I feel like, is just mobile bullshit type stuff. And it makes me nervous. And that's probably all I really want to kind of get into. I would encourage anybody who's into this to really go kind of watch the podcast, see what they had to say, because there is a lot of different quotes I could dive into, right? Like, we're focused on the next gen hardware, which is going to be the biggest technological leap you've ever seen. Shut up with that shit. Shut up with it.
Because we've talked about on this very show that the Xbox Series X is being outsold by the Series S. So what the fuck does that matter?
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And
so unless that big graphical leap comes with a nice cheap price tag, who gives a fuck?
And do you know how many people I've talked to? Friend of the show, Nick, my buddy that I went and visited over the weekend. We were talking about how just awesome Vampire Survivors is, and doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how powerful your shit is if you don't have compelling things to play on it.
Right.
And why are you talking about the largest technological leap you've ever seen if you're then talking about Roblox? Have you seen Roblox? Have you seen what that game looks like? It doesn't matter. I'm getting a little ranty. Do you see it?
Yeah, all those big games.
I'm getting fired up.
Not very graphical showcases.
Or saying things like that, or we're committed to having the biggest place for developers where the most amount of players can be, and you're playing on a platform where all the biggest games in the world are going to be. Well, what game's coming out in 3 days, Nick?
Yeah.
Is that one there? Helldivers 2, the biggest. Like, it's just, I hate the way they talk.
Right.
And I think if they could get out of their own asses and if they could just try to figure out what their actual players want.
Right. Well, let's say, to be fair,
I don't know.
It would be interesting if the rumors never came out how they plan to present this, because these games are here. Like, the 4 games are here. So if would we have just tuned into that Nintendo Partner Direct and been like,
holy shit,
yeah, Pentiment and Grounded are coming to Switch? That's crazy. And then
they
a
get
week
the
later,
PlayStation
yeah, and then a week later they just dropped this trailer, and I'm assuming there would have been more than just that, because then this freak out would have occurred again.
That's probably how it would have happened. I bet they would have let the Nintendo Switch news ride for a week or so and then drop like, oh, also.
Yeah, but I think they'd have to have something to, like, again, or that big freak out would have happened again, because it's like,
true.
Oh, Pentiment's out. What about Starfield and Indiana Jones?
That's a good point.
And all the other things.
It would have just been feeding
so to be fair, their backs were against the wall, and then the second part of what they had to do is be like, they had to say to the Xbox owners who own a Series S or Series X that your investment wasn't in waste. We're continuing to invest in new hardware. They say we're going to have new hardware this fall, so maybe Project Brooklyn does exist. Then we're going to get a Series X refresh, and that, Xbox isn't going anywhere. Your game library isn't going anywhere. We're still rewarding you for buying in. You're going to get all our games Game Pass day one. They little cherry on top of this was they announced Diablo 4 is coming to Game Pass later in March.
I have that note. March 28th.
Yeah, so which I think is crazy earlier than I was suspecting.
Yep.
I thought it would have been a year after it came out, or even closer to the the big expansion that's coming. But Diablo is also a live service game. Like, don't kid yourself. So it makes sense that they'll take get a big boost in people playing it on Game Pass, and then
you'll get more revenue that way.
They have all the microtransactions and battle passes in there, so it can make additional revenue.
Yeah.
So
I'm very curious to see what the plan with Call of Duty is, because I think that putting it on Game Pass day one that's a big chunk of money that they're just throwing away. So I'm curious to see if that happens.
Well, especially with their deal with Sony. Like, right. Would Sony have signed? Sony probably would sign the deal anyway. It's one of the biggest franchises out there, but as part of that deal, not to have the brand newest Call of Duty, whatever the next one coming out this year, we already know what the title is. It's something. I think it's Black Ops again.
Yeah, it's just another
it's another Call of Duty. Whatever.
Like, I think it's the Iraqi war or something.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Can they put that game on Game Pass day one?
I mean, honestly, if Sony says like that's part of the deal, and I'm Microsoft, I go, yeah, I take that deal. I use you as the reason we can't do it to get good PR, and then we get our money too.
Right.
Like, that's what I would if I was Sony. Like, yeah, you just pass the buck, blame them, because then you'll get all those fanboys that need to buy that shit day one.
Just to kind of wrap things up is like Xbox isn't going anywhere, which is good. As we definitely want more competition in this market, because I don't want Sony by themselves. Like they already are. They've had a lot of bumbles last year alone.
No, cocky Sony's honestly the worst Sony.
Yeah,
like back against the wall, Sony's kind of where you want them.
Yeah. So
that's why we got the PS4.
Yep. So I want them around. I'm glad they're still around. I'm glad there's this commitment to new hardware going forward. That's always exciting, and hopefully we all win if more games come to other platforms. That's for sure.
Yeah. My final point will be, if you think that's just these 4, you're kidding yourself. No. Microsoft. It makes no sense to me business wise why you would ever just be those 4 games. If your reasoning is we want bigger communities for community-driven games, great, then do those. And if the other reason is these games have run their course and we can get more profit no matter what, do that too. So
yep.
Buy these games if you want to see more. If you want to see the Master Chief Collection come to PlayStation one day, which I think would be a very good option for this, like that's that'd be huge. But it'd be crazy to see PlayStation prompts on a Halo game. Buy these games, show them that this is what you want, and for full disclosure, like if PlayStation games made their way to Xbox, I don't think I'd care. I would maybe care if it was day and date. I might be like, that's weird. Why do I care about the Sony ecosystem?
That's never happening.
That's never happening. But like, if one day they're just like, we put Horizon Zero Dawn on PC, we're gonna bring it to Xbox too. Be like, cool. Like that's fine.
Or even
whatever.
like we know Marathon is gonna be day and date.
Fair Games and Concord should go on Xbox.
We're going to talk about Helldivers later, but if like Helldivers was one of those games, again, these live service games, those especially, you need big numbers to justify the game and to keep that constant stream of content coming out. So, if and I know like it was kind of cute over the weekend, a lot of people, because of the way Helldivers works is like you're all working toward a greater goal combined together that both PC and PlayStation want Xbox in there because that's just more soldiers spreading democracy, which we all want
for freedom. But yeah, I mean, one of the obviously Helldivers has been taking up a lot of my mind share lately, and talking to Nick and other people about it. It's like one of the easiest ways to advance this game is just incorporate new factions, new weapons, and we're talking about like Killzone could fit into that really well. Ratchet and Clank could maybe fit into that really well. Halo would fit into that beautifully. Like if you were able to have like a Halo-based mission structure with like elites and that the flood coming at you, and you had roared like that's a match made in heaven. So get on it, Phil.
All right. All right. So yeah, speaking of Helldivers 2, let's just move on to our next topic because John and I have both purchased and have been playing Helldivers 2. Again, this is the game from Arrowhead. This game
soon to be owned by PlayStation Studios.
This is kind of like I keep wanting to challenge John's assertion that 2024 will not be as big as 2023, and I'm happy to say that in these first few months he's looking like a clown. He's looking like a clown so far because after Pal World blew up the internet, now Helldivers 2 blew up the internet.
Yeah, Pal World's like
dead
now.
If you're listening to this, you probably know that already. It is like been the story. They can't keep up with the amount of concurrence. They've had to keep increasing it. And to say Arrowhead was not ready for this, and Sony, is the understatement.
Yeah.
Like, how do you release a live service game and don't have a timeout? Like what game just lets you exist on the server and not time out for not playing it?
Yeah, Nick speaking to, there was an issue that people were literally staying logged in overnight so that they didn't have to jump back in the queue lines the next day, and then nobody else could get in because everything was jam-packed.
That just shows you how much of a shock this was, right?
Yep.
It's like that they didn't even think about that. Diablo 4 times you out, so they weren't ready for it. And again, Helldivers 2 is a sequel to the 2015 game, but that game was isometric. It was an over-the-head view, and I know John and I both, I think we were like May on this game. We weren't sure if it was going to be a certified hit, and that isometric game became a third-person game. That third-person game is amazing, from presentation to the silly humor, like for democracy and spreading it, and just this. So the goal of the game is you and 3 others squad mates go down to a planet and are just completing objectives while facing off a lot of at first giant bugs. It takes a heavy inspiration from Paul Verhoeven, is that his name? Starship Troopers.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also take it to automatons who are just like straight out of Terminator. But the game, the weapons, it heavily relies on what are called stratagems, in which you can call down very powerful moves, powerful weapons. So you can have a giant sniper rifle, a rocket launcher, but then you can call down a turret or a mortar
orbital
cannon.
laser.
Yeah, an orbital laser, getting into the more airstrikes. And so this game is just all about that emergent story. Like, I think the objectives are pretty there's not a lot of story you get from them. They're pretty self-explanatory. But, we launched that ICBM missile, and it was flashy as hell. And a lot of the game just relies on emergent stories that just happen out of the chaos of this game. Like, because it's beautiful. You're swarmed with bugs. You're either swarmed with robots. And as a team, you're just trying to figure it all out in the chaos. And I think that really attributes to its success. I think when you think about what made, Grand Theft Auto is a huge property, but I think Grand Theft Auto Online continues to this day because just you go in and crazy shit happens. Mm-hmm. Like the engine allows for that, and same thing here. Like it almost seems like the same ragdoll physics of the Grand Theft Auto game. Like if you're close to like a mortar strike or you get hit, your guy just is flopping all over the place. And yeah, John, I know you haven't played as much as I have, but what are your thoughts?
I've had a weird relationship with this game where it came out. I bought it. It's not a game that I'm typically in favor of. I don't like multiplayer games. I like to play games by myself. I'm a loner. But I had to buy this one. $40 price point, huge. The reception it got, and it just looked like a good amount of fun. But people comparing it to like, this is like what multiplayer felt like with Left 4 Dead, with like Halo, LAN parties with your buddies and things like that. And like that's the type of that's the good shit, right?
Yeah.
Part of the reason I hate multiplayer games is because the stress that inherently will come from it playing against other people, right? You're playing against people who are probably the same skill level as you. You know, I think of Rocket League. They match you up with people the same level because that otherwise it wouldn't be fun if you're either stomping people or they're stomping you. But it inherently is just going to create a stressful environment where I go, fuck! Nah, I should have had that shot. I should have whatever this. And this game is both the most stressful and least stressful thing ever in a weird, beautiful way.
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
You know, it's just like we loaded like. First off, you got to learn the game. I was so happy to play with you because like I needed somebody to just be like, this is what this does, this is what this does, this is kind of the strategy, because it's a weirdly simple game. Like that's one of the things I kind of immediately realized about it that kind of threw me off, where I was like, is this all this is? Where you go into a ship, you pick a mission on a globe that's not in any order. It's not like this is the 47th out of 50 missions. You just do a thing. You go in with your buddies. It's usually 20 to 30 minutes.
Yep.
And you leave, and then you just do it again. And so at first I was like, this isn't gonna stick for me. And like I did a mission by myself, and I did a mission with another rando, and that was okay, but still just didn't feel right. But then jumping in with you and two of our other buddies and having those, like you said, emergent stories. I was playing with Nick and two of our friends last night, and one of the guys is an absolute goofball. And he, he's running with our other buddy, Jack, and he's like, hey, I'm going to call in a strike, an orbital strike. And Jack's like, okay, cool. And he throws it, but he accidentally threw it directly at their feet. So Jack looks up, and there's just a big laser beam coming down at him. And like they of course explode up and everything like that. But because there's this low stress element to it of like, hey, you get 20 revives. You got your friends with you.
Yes.
It's going to be okay. Just have fun with it. You can do all the side things if you want. You can go collect all the samples if you want. It's going to level you up faster. But like, just do the thing and get out of there if you want to. And I think the game just does a really good job with that. And that's why it's sticking so well with a lot of people, because it's so easy to jump into. It's so easy to have fun. It's so easy to not reach the end of a thing. And even if you fail, you're probably like, well, that was fucking wild.
Right.
Because it does have this backdrop again of these beautiful presentation. You know, we were fighting these huge chargers is what they're called. The chargers, where like these two chargers are coming after us, and we're like kind of running away, and then one of them just like hops up on top of a like rock structure, and there's like a gorgeous sunset behind it, and like he just looks like he's like kind of like staring down at all of us like, what you gonna do? And it just, I don't know, it creates a pretty cool environment. I will say I don't think this is gonna be a thing that sticks with me forever, but it's for right now, playing with some buddies. It's exceeding what I thought it would have done for me for a game like this.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I really enjoy the environments that desert planet we were on. At one point, like a sandstorm had come through, and it was like the visibility was just bare minimum, and you know you're just hearing like gunfire, and you can't even see what's going on, and you're just running to your buddy trying to like be there to help him. And
there is nothing cooler than a large behemoth of a creature that you can see the outline of in fog in the distance, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And
it's
then
so cool.
Then it spits acid at you, and you're like,
bitch. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it has everything going for it really well. Like I said, that gameplay loop is so good of just going down to the planet, getting resources, getting money, being very forgiving about deaths. I heard if you complete the main objective and you run out of lives, you still get credit for that main objective and completing it. And stuff like that is just great. Like
they want people to have fun, and I think that's forgotten by a lot of games, especially live service games. Because what I will say that this game also does extremely well, especially for this kind of game, it does not shove microtransactions down your throat. It does not make you feel like you are missing a big chunk of the game or having a less than optimal experience because you don't want to fork over real world money. It does a great job with that.
And it does have microtransactions.
It does.
It has a battle pass and a store, but you can actually earn those credits in game too if you find them.
Yeah.
So
you want to spend extra money because time's tight for you, go for it. But like, it does all the little things very well. And for Sony's, you could argue that this is Sony's first big live service release, right? I think some people might say, MLB The Show and things like that.
no,
And you're not technically wrong, but like this is the first one of their like initiative, and so for them to nail it so hard is incredibly encouraging. Makes me a little bit more excited for Fair Games. Makes me a little bit more excited for Concord. Like I'm not saying that those games are gonna get me going, but it's gonna at least be like, well, let's is this more Arrowhead or is this more Sony? I don't know, but it at least makes me a little more open to those projects.
It's neither of them.
It's what, blind luck.
It is very well. Credit is all to Arrowhead, like I said, all the things we just talked about. That most incredibly satisfying loop with that music. God, every time the Hellpods drop, is just a chill down my spine when those Hellpods drop.
It's spine.
So yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
And like I said, a credit to them. But like as we talked about at the very beginning, they had no fucking clue that this was
Oh,
gonna
no,
happen.
for sure.
No idea.
For sure.
But it's fucking great.
It is.
You can't argue that like for this game to find this kind of success. And like I said, I think it's just like universally just loved. I know it was getting some hate because of people couldn't get into the game.
That is pretty much fixed.
But it seems like everyone is just embracing the bro nature of it. I think that's a big part of it. Like Helldivers can hug and fist bump, and there's a lot of cute like animations between the players, and it just like you said, it's like it's high stress but low stress, and it finds that perfect curve where you're never going to throw your controller or be mad. And I think they responded to that about why there's no PvP content is like the same
they said they're never going to do it, which I love. I love that they said
that. So
but yeah, Colin Moriarty I think said it best, where he said this game doesn't make you feel like a man, but it makes you feel like a guy. Like you're just a bro with your dude shooting bugs.
Yeah.
And it's a ton of fun. Like it's so funny too, man. Just thinking like the fake reviews in the store of like, oh, it's the best thing to get the bug goop off you or whatever, and it's just well done, Arrowhead. And yeah, I want to play tonight. I mean, I don't, we'll see if we can, but.
The only thing is I feel bad is like we're watching streamers who are already max level and all that, is like you release this game and it's wildly successful, is like, and we know mechs are coming, like that's the next kind of content update we saw.
About those.
Yeah, we saw that in the state of play, the last Sony state of play, that mechs are coming, and I'm assuming more vehicles are coming. Is just now that the servers are fixed, like how soon can they keep this momentum, because it's not easy, and I feel bad, like that's like you're so successful and just people just consume this content so hard that hopefully this 2 months from now they can just maintain this excitement level.
That'd be really interesting. I mean, we know that Factions was basically canned because Naughty Dog was going to have to turn their entire studio into supporting that game to keep the content going. And so what does Sony do with Arrowhead? Yeah, do they basically take 200 of their engineers and be like, hey, you guys are just fucking there until, but like, you need to keep it going, right? That's just engineers, and you need people to develop the new.
I think you just, whatever support studio you have, it's like.
You fucking gut bunch.
What do
you guys aren't
need?
making games anymore. Just go help everybody. Just go help everybody.
Yeah, I think you take any support studios you have. Yeah, maybe you have some Bungie people.
I mean, they got Valkyrie. Like, that's an entirely support studio that they have, that they own. I don't know what they're currently working on, but yeah, they're going to definitely be moving resources around this game. And, the next thing they have coming is Stellar Blade, which isn't first party, or that's a second party from Shift Up. So they do kind of have a nice, it seems like they do have an open slate. Not that any of these teams aren't working on things, of course, but it's not like there's a big first party game coming out in May or anything like that.
Right.
So
right.
Focus on that for a little bit.
So not to just leave Helldivers here, because, there's a bunch of live service games that came out in the last few weeks, and Helldivers won, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Skull and Bones came out, 60 on OpenCritic. Suicide Squad, which also Arkham Knight came out in 2015. They've been spending 9 years on a game, 60 on OpenCritic, and then Foam Stars, also
it's
59 on OpenCritic.
It's pretty funny. It's like David versus Goliath, man. Arrowhead versus Ubisoft, Square Enix, and Rocksteady. And it's like, yeah, we got this. You guys don't know what you're doing.
So we know, like, and it seems like that gameplay loop we talked about, the feel of the game, that those 3 games just could not get it done. Probably Skull and Bones is probably the closest to have like a find the fun there, but it's from all accounts, we had our pal of the show Jesse write in that Suicide Squad plays terribly, so that loop sucks. And we've said on our own podcast, is like that's how these games have to hit, and that's I think contributes to Helldivers 2's success. But
yeah, stratagems are just the dopest thing ever. Like, come on, who doesn't have fun doing those?
But we do have, like the rumor is Concord is supposedly coming out later this year. Right. We have Marathon. There are more live service games on the horizon. Is there anything you can think of if let's just say we're working on Concord, which is, I want to say Fire Sprite. Is it Fire Sprite or is it the other? Yeah, the other Fire Studio for Sony.
I hate that.
Yeah,
it's like an Outer Wilds.
Because Fire Sprite is the Horizon Call of the Mountain.
Yes.
Okay, so there we go. So if I'm working for Concord, and I see Helldivers 2, what is the takeaway? I think first and foremost, it just has to play really well.
Yeah.
It has to be tight controls. It has to feel good, or at least it has to feel good enough to where like I'm not feeling cheated, as Helldivers 2 does. I think like kind of the silliness of it all helps when you're like, I accidentally rocketed myself, like, but my character went crazy and it's funny and silly and I'm back right in the game. Is there anything you can think of if we were working on Concord to take away from what we just saw with 4 live service games?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to embrace, and this might sound extremely obvious and simple, but embrace the fun. Like, I think
it is very hard. It's not.
It is. Humor also is very hard, but Helldivers embraces both of those things so well. Where, like you said, even an emote where a guy goes like this, and I can walk up to him and I press X and I just hug him. It brings a smile to my face. Not shoving down the live service elements, I think, is key too. I mean, Suicide Squad, I look at that UI and I just go, bleh. And I even get into it a little bit with Helldivers. Like initially, I was scared to go into that square menu because it just looks like a menu that I would buy stuff at.
Right.
And then I found out it's not that, and it's fine. Yeah. But figuring out a way to balance that with the players, I think, is huge, and also Concord specifically, it's going to come down to what kind of game is that. I think the player versus environment is such a huge element of this because it just inherently forces camaraderie and working together as opposed to animosity and working against each other,
right? And
getting mad at your squad mates because you guys lost the match against the other team because this guy didn't do the right thing or whatever. Like, there's none of that. Like, there's I think a little bit of it with people who are playing with randos, where I've heard stories of, blowing up their teammates at the last moment or kicking them because people are just fucking dicks.
Right.
But, so I don't, you can't really take that away from a lesson if your game is built around PvP, but, I think keeping those things in mind is definitely what would help lead you down the right path.
And it's unique, right? Like, it seems every live service game wants that, the finals, this group combat, Apex Legends. Like, we were so Fortnite, we're kind of sick of all these modes, like even where Fortnite is like pulling away from it. Mm-hmm. Like, it has a music mode and a Minecraft mode and a racing mode that, it's more people want a more relaxing experience than getting killed by tryhards that are playing the game all the time. And
yeah, or even a game like Suicide Squad where it's not really PvP, but like like you said, Helldivers is so unique. You call in stratagems, and you got these little. It's so simple. Like, maybe that's another takeaway: simplicity. Like, you don't have to have all these systems working together that just make numbers go up, and then at the end of the day, my number's higher than your number. It's like, like I said, just simply calling in a cluster bomb when I see a bug nest come up I will sit there and I'll just go. I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for them to all blow up. It looks great, and yeah, it's hard though because, like we've said, you you can't force it, but I would definitely use Helldivers as a model. That's for sure.
Yeah, and even I'm just thinking about like the Hoyoverse, who will successfully probably release
there's no
3
PvP.
live service games, and there's no fighting each other.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
there's something to that.
There's already too much like just people being dicks to one another in the world. Like, you know, I think we look to video games as a way to escape, and finding a space where I can drop a fucking nuke on you and you go, you know, it's just
Right.
You know, you don't get that a lot of places.
Right. So
it's good stuff.
all right, so we'll probably report in more Helldivers too as we continue to
democracy.
play it. But let's move on to another game that we both tried. The Nintendo Partner Direct was kind of small on announcements. It seems that you know, the Switch was supposedly, this was to be its last year. The Switch 2 would come out, but now rumors are that Switch 2 is next year. But that was definitely shown at this Partner Direct that, you know, there's not a lot coming for Switch because as development moves to, you know, Switch 2 and that. But
so little, in fact, that we decided between our lost episode and now that we're not even going to worry.
Yeah,
about
exactly.
It's if you're curious, go look. There's a couple small games in there, but nothing.
Something that did come out of it is that Unicorn Overlord, another one of the big, but is quotes, but JRPG that is coming out in these first 3 months to join Infinite Wealth and Final Fantasy Rebirth and Grand Blue Fantasy, all these JRPGs coming out. This is just another one. This is coming from Vanillaware, whose last game was 13 Sentinels, a game John and I both like. It's probably our more...
We both platinumed it.
Yeah, our most obscure platinum. People are probably like, what game is that?
Definitely. I think that game got a big article when they're like, hey, we sold 100,000 copies or something. So, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, you have... they've done Dragon's Crown, Grim Grimoire,
Odin Sphere.
Yep, Odin Spear. They've done a lot of games, and if you see their trailers for their games or played any of their demos for their titles, you'll notice like one of the most consistent themes is they have the most unique art style out there. Yeah, emphasis. There will always be a character who's top heavy, but
or a couple.
But yeah. So the demo's out. It is out on. I think it probably is out on everything because that game is coming to everything.
It is. Yeah, it is.
So you have the chance to play it, and by demo I mean it's basically a game trial. You get 7 hours with the game, so you can play it for 7 hours, and then if you like it, it'll all transfer over to the game. But what the game is it's a fantasy auto battler is probably the easiest thing.
A hard one to quantify.
Yeah. You basically play as a typical fantasy story. You're playing as Elaine, whose mom is killed by your own general who betrays her, and then that general takes over the world, and you're leading this small band of resistance fighters.
Do you get amnesia?
You don't get amnesia.
Oh, okay.
You're very well aware of what's going on, but
my mom is dead.
But yeah, and from there, you know, you start as a small ragtag group of people, and you're joined and you recruit people along the way as you go through it, and this starts unlocking classes and stuff like that. But and a lot of JRPG tropes are in there for sure. But what the game is kind of like it's a strategy game first and foremost. There's an overworld map in which you have towns, and you can do requests for the towns to return them to their former glory. There's a lot of stuff to explore, and then when you are in battle, it is this real-time battlefield where you can you go to your town and deploy troops, and then those troops are made up of all the characters you've been recruiting. And kind of the neat thing is they all have like rock, paper, scissors, strength, and weaknesses with each other, and you kind of place them on this board, and then when they run into another enemy, that battle just auto plays out. You're not actually telling a character to cast ice or telling a guy to swing his sword or block. The classes kind of all do that themselves, and that makeup of those teams matters because again, magic users are strong against physical attackers, and if they're not protected by a shield guy in front, because you kind of position them in this grid, they can be vulnerable to attack. And so, you kind of always want to make a good team consistency, and then you always have to consider what they're facing. And every match you go up to, and this was in Advance Wars as well, which is kind of an auto battler. Is you kind of see what the damage is going to be. Like you'll know even before watching it play out is if your character is going to take a lot more damage than the other guy, or you're going to defeat them entirely, and then you kind of just take over the little, and it's all under a timer. That's how that plays out. So if they either capture your main base or this certain amount of time passes, you lose the battle. So you kind of just fight your way till you get to their castle, kind of take down their enforcements, and these kind of give you valor points, which again can be used to deploy those troops or use character unique abilities like next attack for everyone, they get first strike, so they'll attack first and stuff like that. And it's just at the surface, it looks like to be a very big and very deep game. The map is huge. You can go into like a character like library, and there's so many more classes. There's probably like 30 classes of warriors and mages and sorcerers in the game, and it's overwhelming. But I won't lie, I was digging it. Yeah. I'm digging it a lot. I like the art, of course, is incredible. Music's incredible, and there's just something, some kind of dopamine of just building the correct combination, and then just letting them out in the world and watching them just destroy the enemy.
I can see that. I can see that. But it reminds me a lot of like Final Fantasy XII's Gambit system, where you kind of just like build this. You make sure your party members kind of do different things. Yep. And you have them in specific orders, and then you just build the most well-rounded version of that, and you'll wipe through enemies. Yep. I loaded this game in as well, and listening to you talk about it definitely maybe wants to make me try it again. I will say, I immediately go, this is too much brain power for me.
I just want to shoot bugs.
I just want to play something, and with time as limited as I was, especially with demos, like demos are very quick for me to just get out of here.
Well, you got to hand it to these demos, like we saw.
7 hours is no joke.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and this one is like that. The content goes to the main game. Mm-hmm. Is incentive to see it through more than
for sure. But it's if I do go to the main game.
Yeah.
And like I said, maybe I'll give it a shot again. But like the moment I saw that, I have to go into a menu-based system and rearrange the process or the order of the abilities that just the sequence of everything, I was like, I don't want to think right now.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I would challenge any one developer has a prettier, cooler, more unique art style than Vanillaware. Like it's I always use this comparison with like music, where sometimes you just listen to a guitar player play and you just know who it is. Like you know who Carlos Santana is and what he sounds like, and it's like I just see a screenshot, I go, it's a Vanillaware game.
Yeah,
the easiest one in the world to do. So there's a lot to love. I think this game is going to review incredibly well, but I think it's going to be another one like Fire Emblem or something, where it's like if it's got to be for you. Like if it's I find myself a lot of times forcing myself into genres. Pentiment is a great example, where I'm like, IGN gave it a 10. I got to try it. And I was like forcing. I was like, yeah, I like this. Yeah, I like this. And I don't want to do that with my time anymore. Sure. So do you think you're buying? Is this a Nick purchase now?
So yeah, that's the tricky part. So it's coming out March 8th. That is 8 days after Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So that sucks. Yeah. I'm playing Infinite Wealth right now, and then Helldivers snuck into the room and was like,
don't forget about me.
yeah, you guys, we all want to play. And so yes, it is 100% on my radar.
Sounds like a good wait for sale though.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you feel this way. I feel bad because like Vanillaware. Like you said, how much?
I don't feel bad. No,
okay.
My money is
no empathy on this side of the room.
It is too valuable for me. No.
But I kind of feel bad. And this might be one of those games that could be harder to find on specific platforms, like the.
If you want to get physically, we're physical boys. Yeah.
Yeah, the PS5 version might be hard to find. So I don't know, but
if it is, you should just keep that copy. Maybe in 10 years, it's like worth something.
Right. So yeah, It's on the list now, and unfortunately, like I said, I've got two big JRPGs that I currently, I own one with Infinite Wealth and will own with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That to fit in a third one, is pretty fucking insane. But
so what's after Rebirth, not including Unicorn Overlord? What's the next game you have?
Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush. Okay, and that's
March
super
18th.
Quick. You can do that in a weekend.
March 18th.
Anything after that? I'm just trying to think of what your announced game.
And then in April, it's Dave the Diver and possibly Stellar Blade.
Okay.
And then I think May is finally, as of right now, in the clear. As far as I think that's that fog of war
Yeah,
is not till May is kind of where it returns.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you got some thing on your books, but you're also a beast, and you don't have kids, so I don't want to hear any excuses out of you.
well, yeah. It is my number one hobby, but it is a lot. Like
No, of course, and especially like that same genre back to back.
Right.
Like, oh my god,
right.
I want somebody to be moody, or maybe not moody. There's a lot of moody people in Japanese games, but
right.
I want some dark Last of Us type shit.
I'm good on that after Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah,
but,
for sure, I know.
But yeah, it's on my radar. We'll probably hear me talk about it come April, May ish time, and I'll let the listeners know that I have bought it and started playing it.
Yes, sir.
So pretty cool. All right, let's move on to the video game character battle royale, our returning segment since September. We're into round 2, and we have some winners to announce from last week.
Finally.
Yeah, yeah, for 2 of them finally. So the good thing about our week off is we got a decision on 2 of the ties. But first up, we do have Sub-Zero versus Doom Guy. Sub-Zero won. Power of friendship. John did it. He took down one of the big ones.
Yeah, I was proud of myself when I thought of that. I was just like, I don't know if it's going to work, but it's silly enough that it might.
Yeah, it did work. So, yeah, Sub-Zero moving on. And then we had 2B and Aloy. And 2B won. John can rest easy again.
All right.
She'll be his number 1 draft pick in round 3 if we do decide to draft the characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Zagreus will be up there, but yeah, no, she's bae.
And then in that same boat, Solid Snake got out of his second tie to beat Sora, so he is moving on.
Power
as well.
of friendship didn't help Sora.
No.
only helps Sub-Zero of all people.
Well, when it's your big trope.
And
it was out of nowhere. Doom Guy just he didn't think someone would do that. Change his heart. So which is also a Kingdom Hearts theme.
Yeah.
But all right, so we're moving back into this week's matches, which is Fox McCloud versus Big Daddy and Little Sister, followed by Richter Belmont versus Ezio. I think I get to choose and you defend first, or you go first?
I don't care.
Okay. Yeah. We did this battle last week
in
the Forgotten episode, so we're kind of retreading similar ground here, but we'll have fun anyway. All right. Well, we'll start with Richter Belmont of the Castlevania series versus Ezio of the Assassin's Creed series.
And I go first?
Ahead. Go ahead, John.
All right. So right off the bat, Ezio, Master Assassin, he is going to use a smoke bomb to figure out a way to break line of sight from Richter, so he has no idea where he is.
Sure. So Richter Belmont has a lot of useful items, and he's going to employ Stopwatch. This allows him to freeze time and have his way with Ezio.
Oh, jeez. Well, luckily for Ezio, time stops, but during his next move, because Richter's not attacking while time is stopped. Time then reverts to going again. Hidden poison blade right into the neck. Right into Richter's dumb vampire hunting neck.
I'm disappointed because last week you said right in the ass.
Oh, I did. You're right. I did right in the butthole. Oh. Well,
But fine, yeah, poison blade.
Right in the butt.
That's pretty deadly. But he's again the more defensive moves here because he knew an assassin was coming for him. Richter is going to use the Bible, an item which forms a barrier around Richter and prevents him from harm. So hopefully this will prevent that poison blade from sticking him anywhere on his body, not just his anus.
Great. Well, as many cultured people may know, Ezio is actually Italian for eagle. So he is going to use an eagle strike attack where he calls upon his eagle brethren to go eat Richter's eyeballs.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You're going right for all the vulnerable spots.
Yep, buttholes and eyes.
All right. So Richter Belmont's going to have to employ his signature weapon. That is the vampire killer, his whip. This, signature weapon gives Richter range, mobility, and has the ability to reflect or nullify projectiles. I think he's whipped a few eagles or birds in his video game experience, so he'll take care of that bird, and he'll take care of Ezio with that whip.
Did you ever play Super Castlevania 4?
No, I don't play Castlevania games.
One of the things I like about that is there's like physics to his whip where you can like hold it and like jiggle it.
Oh.
I'm just picturing him like jiggling it at a bird.
And I take that back. I played the 3D ones of all the.
Okay. What are the Lords of Shadow or something?
Yes. Good memory. All right. So okay. So this again, these polls will be on Twitter at JoysticksPod. Please vote there. Please avoid ties. Or you can also write in at betweenthejoysticks@gmail.com. Tell us why the other character would win, and we'll certainly read it. So let's move on to our next match. Fox McCloud versus Big Daddy and Little Sister. And I guess I got to go first on this one.
Yes.
So Fox McCloud is going to use his signature sensor bomb. You know, the way to beat a Big Daddy in the BioShock series was to litter the way with traps before you aggroed it. So Fox will plant the battlefield with these motion-censored bombs to make Big Daddy walk into some major damage when he finally confronts Fox.
That's fair. Well, one might look at this matchup and think, wow, Fox really has a speed advantage, doesn't he? Well, Big Daddy knows this. Big Daddy says, I got to close that gap immediately, bombs or not. I got to use my charge attack to close the distance, get right next to Fox. Luckily, I think he moves fast enough that the bombs explode behind him, I hope. I sure do hope.
It's true. All right. Fox is going to have to rely on his signature Smash Brothers move, that up B move, the jetpack. So he's going to use this to keep that distance because you don't want to get close to a Big Daddy. And this will certainly help him gain mobility and verticality on the Big Daddy.
All right, well, I was hoping to save this move for last, but being that space has been created again, I got to pull out my ion laser. In BioShock 2, there's different variances of Big Daddies. One of the most powerful has the ion laser. It doesn't matter how far away Fox is, doesn't matter how fast Fox is, he's going to get ioned. Some might say in the butthole. I don't know, though.
In the anus?
Yeah, in that foxy anus.
All right. Well, Fox is going to have to rely on his ultimate here. That, of course, is his signature R-Wing, the jet fighter plane he pilots in all of the Fox game or the Star Fox games. And so this gives him verticality, speed, firepower, you name it. It's a jet. Yeah, so, it's a jet. You know, he's going to have the Big Daddy's a big target, and the R-Wing will take him out.
I got a question for you, Nick. Have you seen the show Invincible?
Mm-hmm.
You have? Okay. Well, luckily for Big Daddy, he's got his drill. You know that scene where Omni-Man holds Mark in the subway? And the subway just goes through him? Well, he's doing the same thing with his drill. While that plane flies right at him, he pulls that drill out, boom, just saws it right in half. Okay. Fox gets mushed.
Okay, so a game of chicken, which is stronger, the R-Wing or the drill?
Doesn't matter what's stronger. That drill, it just cuts right through. Cuts right through.
I do have a feeling if a plane crashed into a Big Daddy, the Big Daddy would somehow get up from that.
Yeah, it'd be some weird video game thing. But also, who's not to say Fox flies a tiny plane? He's at Fox. He's not a human.
True.
He could be a plane that's like this big.
True. That's true. True. Sense of scale, but...
You know, foxes, frogs. I don't know what the other animals in Star Fox are. I've never played them, but...
It's weird in Smash Brothers because they're all kind of the same height. So he is kind of the same height as Solid Snake and, you know, the Fire Emblem human characters.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Cool.
Well, there you go. Again.
All right.
So if you remember, we already chose in our lost episode.
I know. I didn't know. Do you want to choose again, or do you want to just...
I say we just stick with it.
All right. I don't remember what they are. I didn't write them down. You tell me.
All right. For match one, John will have Cal Kestis in his corner.
Cool. I'm playing Jedi Survivor right now.
Yeah, so perfect timing.
Nice.
And he is going to go against Shovel Knight, who took down the Mario, the Nintendo mascot, the Mario.
The Mario.
So Cal Kestis has shovel versus lightsaber. That's an interesting fight.
The question as old as time.
Yeah.
What would win? A shovel versus a lightsaber.
And then in our second battle, we are going to have Spyro the Dragon facing off against Clive Rossfield, who has some experience with dragons. So that'll be also an interesting battle.
I have Spyro, right?
You have Spyro, yes.
Ooh, okay. It's fine. It's fine. The power of friendship won. We can figure something out.
Yeah. So good luck. All right. So that's it.
That's it.
We got it.
Video. Hopefully this one doesn't get lost. I'm going to be real upset.
Yeah, we'll do a lot of preventive measures on this one so it makes it out. All right, but that's it. You know, what do we got to tease? Mine's obvious. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That'll be the talk of the internet. I will have played so many hours of it.
I'm sorry. You good? Is Courtney around?
Yeah.
Okay.
She
I know
knows.
you got the next 4 days off of work.
She understands.
And that's one you prep her for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm covering for you. Look at that.
So that's kind of the big thing here, and more Helldivers, of course, as it seems like more and more people want to play. And if you're listening and you want to play with us, write in. We'll work you in.
I would love that. Jesse, Mark, Jesse,
Anyone
Mark,
listening?
you guys always get the shout outs. But anybody listening, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So let us know. And what do you got over here, John? What do you got to tease? You said Tears of the Kingdom is done. You started Jedi Survivor, which I'm shocked.
Yeah, so I was honestly toying around with the idea of bringing the wheel back, but that has bit us in the ass one too many times. So I was trying to figure out what's the next game I play. Tears of the Kingdom's done. I got the Portal.
A game out of nowhere.
Yeah, so why not a game out of nowhere? No, Will he was gracious enough to let me borrow Jedi Survivor. So we always have that extra little bit of eating away, hey, you should play that and get it back to him.
Right.
So figured now's a good time to jump in that, and I'm only about an hour in, but it's a ton of fun so far. So I'm gonna try to keep going there.
I'm definitely excited to hear your thoughts because again, it didn't make my top 3 of Game of the Year nominees last year, but it was definitely 4.
Well, what I'm already realizing as I'm, and maybe I'm just not remembering Fallen Order as much, but I just the moment to moment gameplay feels a lot better in this one. I'm really digging that. I don't. Admittedly, I've said on the show, I'm not a big Star Wars guy. So, the narrative, I'm not, really... I'm going to absorb it, but I'm not, ready to see what the next thing is. But if the gameplay is fun enough, I'm excited to try that pistol weapon that you loved.
Yeah.
And go through there. But, yeah, so I was trying to find the next game. It was either going to be like that or jump back into Hogwarts Legacy, maybe figure that out, or just wait for Rebirth as well. But, just want to get through that. Playing it on the Portal. It's a good little Portal game.
Okay.
And Baltaro is another game that I can't get out of my dumb head.
One of the best reviewed games of the year is in this little indie darling.
Yeah, poker game.
Again, it seems like 2024 is a great year for video games. I don't where John was thinking it wasn't going to be, but
I don't know where the Tears of the Kingdom or the Baldur's Gate 3 is at yet, but maybe we'll get there.
Sure.
We'll get there, but no, it's a 92 on OpenCritic right now. It's basically a poker roguelike that employs a lot of crazy Joker antics, and I'm a sucker for those kind of loops. So
and it's out now,
and it seems like the perfect Portal game. So, if I'm feeling spicy, I might pick that up. But honestly, when I'm not wanting to play just Star Wars right now, at least I want to play Helldivers. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, I think we're going to be in kind of that lull. For the next few months, and then May will be more news.
Yeah,
more
April. I've made up the mind. I want to get Stellar Blade day one, unless if it reviews poorly. So maybe talk about that. But
yeah. And when's the last time you got a game day one? Spider-Man's.
Spooderman.
Spooderman's.
Yeah. When's the last time you got a game? Well, I guess.
Last of Us remastered technically.
Sure. $10. That doesn't count. Did you get Infinite Wealth day one?
No.
All right, mister. When's your last day one purchase? Is it Spider-Man? I bet it is, you little fuck.
Yeah, well, Last of Us Part 2 remastered, but...
No, we just disqualified that.
Okay. Well, I didn't do the upgrade. I bought the game again.
Fair.
So...
That's fair.
So,
all right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no,
So Rebirth will technically be
It's been a minute. I mean, and who knows, man. There's an entire possibility that in 3 days I text you and go, hey, look it, I got Rebirth. So we'll see. Or I just wait and be patient.
If you sell your Switch, I mean that's
trying. If Mr. GameStop man won't be a little baby about it.
All right. Well, that's it. What is the song, John? Where are we going?
All right. So in honor of our newly welcomed Xbox brethren, Hi-Fi Rush from licensed song from the game, but the game has a lot of licensed tracks, and this one hits well. It comes from in the first boss battle, but the song is 1 Million by 9 Inch Nails. For those who don't know, Hi-Fi Rush beats to a rhythm throughout the whole game, and so you're fighting in a rhythm, and it's great. It's good stuff. So welcome to the PlayStation family, Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very excited to play it. So. Yeah. So that's a great song. So, yeah, that is it. That's 5 things. And,
Blow kisses.
You can if you want to. Yeah, again, this should be on YouTube. So if you want to actually visually watch us talk about,
It will be on YouTube, Nick.
yeah,
It will
be on video games, talk about video games, then go ahead and check us out there. But of course, if you're listening, we thank you for listening, and of course, we will be back next week with up to 6 things. So bye for now.
Bye.
Bye bye.